Jones, Pro Football Hall of Famer, top 100.
Tyler Lockett from the Seattle Seahawks.
DK Metcalf.
Today, Burleson, you're watching NorbCam.
NorbCam. You're watching NorbCam.
What's up, everybody? Happy Blue Friday to y'all. This is NorbCam coming at you live with this breaking news development. And really, I haven't talked about this at all yet, so it's kind of breaking news on the breaking news. But certainly, most of you Seahawks fans out there have probably heard the news regarding Quinton Dunbar, who, since the story broke yesterday, it has been quite the just bizarre story of him being involved with a armed robbery, wanted for an arrest warrant that's been issued on him. And then more news today as his attorney has spoken out saying that Dunbar may actually be innocent. Well, I think everybody was so quick to write him off yesterday. Perhaps there's more to this story than originally what met the surface. So I am going to bring up my good friend, my pal Patrick, who sits next to me during the Seahawks games. He's coming at me on a phone line here just to talk about this issue a little bit. Pat, how you doing today, man?
Good. How are you doing, Norb?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just my head's spinning trying to keep up with this story, and I assume you've been keeping up a little bit with the latest news about our cornerback Quinton Dunbar. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you just recap the story so we can all be on the same set of information, because it's all over the place.
It is all over the place. I think that's a good idea, and I want to recap it from the actual police report. That way, I'm not getting the sensationalized version that the media sometimes puts out there. But I actually have a copy of the actual police report from the Miramar Police Department down there in Florida. So let me just start by I got a frog in my throat today. I'm so choked up over this. So let me read this. Of course, we've got Quinton Dunbar, the defendant, who is at this point. There are 4 counts of armed robbery against him right now, and here's the description from the report. Some of the names have been blocked out to protect the innocent. So basically, here's what happened. On May 14th, at approximately 20 hours, so late at night, the department was responding to a call of an armed robbery that occurred 45 minutes later. And let's see, let me get to this stuff here. So according to one of the witnesses, he had a party at his residence, May 13th, in Miramar. The party began around 8 o'clock. Numerous individuals were in attendance. He didn't know all the individuals, but one of the attendees, assailants, was later identified as DeAndre Baker. And let's see here. Other attendees also included...
From the Giant? Yeah.
Cornerback from the Giants, and then it was also has charges against him, armed robbery as well. And then Quinton Dunbar also involved in this as well. So let's see. Let's start with where things got interesting. So let's see. Sorry, I'm getting back to. I want to make sure I read the critical information here. All right, so. Getting to the start of it. So here we go. The attendees were playing cards, video games, and gambling. And at this point, there was an argument that ensued at the card table. And he observed that Baker and another person identified as Shy, they flipped over the table and brandished firearms. It was at this point that Baker and Shy pointed their firearms at the face of one of the guests. According to another witness, Dunbar was armed with a firearm, and he was pointing it at some other guests, and added that Baker then walked over to him, took his money, $4,000 in currency, and a watch worth $17,500, and then stated he met Baker and Dunbar about 2 days ago in Miami at a different party at which Baker and Dunbar had lost about $70,000. So this was sort of like possibly a revenge type of thing. And according to this witness, the vehicles used by the assailants were pre-positioned outside the residence in a manner that would facilitate an expedited departure from the residence. So, let's see. Then they made contact with a person who was known as Coach Dominic Johnson. Johnson said he attended the party in Miramar and advised that they were playing cards and video games. And according to Johnson, a fight broke out between one of the guests and another unnamed individual. Johnson has known Baker and Dunbar since they were children. Johnson advised that Baker and Dunbar attended the party as well. Johnson said he saw Baker armed with a handgun, but did not see a firearm in Dunbar's possession. Johnson stated none of his valuables were taken, nor was he threatened by any of the armed assailants because they knew him. Johnson was in contact with Baker. And let's see. And the story kind of goes from there. So basically, at this point, what had been in question in the beginning when this story broke was, did Dunbar... It seemed like Baker led this whole charge and definitely had a gun, but there is mixed information whether Dunbar had a weapon or not. I believe one witness said that he did, two others said that he didn't. And so, as of earlier today, he was still on at large, had not turned himself in, and a warrant was out for his arrest. So, and as far as the world was concerned, he was pretty much guilty. As I think everybody's sort of writing him off as, what the heck is he doing? He's guilty. How could he be involved in such a thing? In the meantime, Pat, after this situation happened, Dunbar went on to have his press conference with the Seattle media the next morning. And of course, none of this was going on, but he's on the video. You see him chatting, answering questions, talking about how he's excited to be in Seattle. While all this stuff is happening, had just taken place, and obviously he's still, hiding out with law enforcement trying to track him down. So that was where it was as of earlier today. But then the latest information that is broke in just the last hour is that his defense attorney for Quinton Dunbar has now said that 5 witnesses have signed sworn affidavits saying that this would exonerate Dunbar from any involvement in this armed robbery that took place. So while they still want him to turn himself in because they still need to process him and find out exactly what happened. The lawyer now claims that he had nothing to do with it, and they've got signed affidavits. Wild. Quick shout out to Flight in June in the super chat. Is it possible for you to request my AG? I'll have to look that up. And thank you for watching, and for all of you who are in the chat checking this out. So Pat, what do you think so far about this bizarre case and now this most recent information that has come to the surface?
Well, I'm still having a hard time processing the first initial thing where he took money from Dunbar, and then, none of it really adds up. What I really think is Dunbar needs to get better friends and hang out with better people.
Bottom line, I think you're right. I think you're right there. It still doesn't make sense. And wherever they're going, evidently, they're not playing for small change of money. So wherever they're hanging out, they're being invited to high-level table. Evidently, they gamble. I think that's clear from this story. They like to go out and they like to spend their money. And didn't Dunbar make, $3.5 million, and the other guy made $2.5 million last year? Something like that. Enough money, more money than I think they would need to steal from guests at a party. But we really don't know the backstory as to why they did this. Obviously, there's more to it than it just happened at that moment. There could have been this revenge situation. Maybe there was bad blood between some people. And either way, it still seems like a very we haven't seen the full story yet. And another shout out to the super chat. Kevin Yor is a changed man. Says, look at Curry, man. Shout out Norb. He's innocent. I
want Dunbar to be innocent. I'll put it this way. As a Seahawks fan and what he brings to the table, I want him to be innocent.
Right.
But I also know that when you hang out with people that can get you in trouble, sometimes you can just be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and other things can happen. And At this stage, they're not kids anymore. They're adults. They earn a salary. They have expectations on them. They have contracts that I think have clauses that require them to be kind of good citizens. How hard can it be? You know what I mean? I don't know the pressures they have in their life. I don't know what makes them tick, but I do know for the amount of money they make and what the expectation is, they should be smart enough to have people there to help keep them out of trouble, or they just have to just make better decisions.
Well, I think some things that go to his favor is, one, he doesn't have a criminal record, so he doesn't have a history of any run-ins with the law. I think he has some outstanding traffic violations, but that's it. So his record has been pretty clean up to this point. So, I would like to think that maybe that will help his case as this all plays out. It does seem to me that between the two football players involved, that Baker is the one who definitely seems to be no doubt that he's the one who had a weapon and seemed to be directing him, and then the other guy, Shy, who had a red mask or something like that, to then take all the belongings from the other people. So maybe it's one of those situations where he was forced to do it. Maybe he didn't want to do it, but once he pulled out the gun, it was almost like he felt maybe the Dunbar didn't have a choice.
Let me ask it different. How many card games you go that you take a gun with? Very few that I'm aware of that I'm willing to take a gun with. You know what I mean?
You're asking the wrong guy, Pat. And by the way, Dukes of Hazzard in the super chat says, "Speaking facts, Pat. Speaking facts." So Dukes of Hazzard likes what you have to say. But I mean, this is a whole other world we're running in. Obviously, sometimes guys who, when you make more money, you're throwing around more money, and so a card game can go run up to $100,000, and it's not a big deal. Whereas you and I would be caught dead in a poker game, spending more than like $50, and I don't even play poker, so I wouldn't be spending any money on a poker game. But the only card table I've ever go to is to play some blackjack, maybe in Vegas every once in a blue moon. So it's a totally different thing.
Can I ask in a different perspective?
Yeah.
One thing, we're regular guys. You know what I mean? We go out there, we have to follow the laws, we do everything that's there. We really get no additional special privileges. That is our life. We're happy with it. We're content with it. We know what that is. But we're not a special football player.
Right.
I mean, we've not been given, extra tutoring, maybe a little bit extra here and there, extra special privileges. And to some people, maybe they feel entitled. And I hope this isn't true. But I remember when you and I went to school, we saw certain players that were very good college players, didn't make the NFL, got a lot of special things that we wish we could have had in college. You know what I mean? Was it legal or not? I have no clue. But I do know that I wasn't allowed to get a special tutor. I had to pay for my tutors. I had to show up for all my classes. I had to take all my own tests. I had to do all those things that were there. I had to actually be there. I couldn't do it in a remote way or have somebody else there. Those are extra privileges that were there. And when you're as good as these two players are, maybe they have lived or had the opportunity to be, gotten a little extra, privilege that is there. Yeah. I hope it's not true, but that's an unfortunate reality of life. And then, if I can take it to a different avenue, we already talked about the guns not being the places that are there. I don't live in Florida. I've gone through the vacations, but I don't live there every day. I don't know how the communities are, and I don't know how they operate, and I don't know what's a norm. I don't know what is not a norm. And that's the one challenging thing about this discussion. Maybe that's common wherever they were, a certain behavior. Yeah, you bring your gun, you do whatever. I don't know. I just don't know.
Right.
From this perspective. But I do know that if I make $3.5 million a year, I'm going to be very well behaved no matter where I go. Because I want to get paid. Yeah, right. And he was set to get paid quite a bit more with this new deal with the Seahawks. Kevin Yor in the super chat says Quinton Dunbar is innocent. Seahawks will go 16-0. That's about as half glass full as possible.
Flight in June in the super chat. Norb says, can we get a prediction for our record? That prediction video is coming at the right before the regular season starts. But I appreciate you asking. I'd like to say we're gonna be better than 11-5 though. 11-5 or better. Paydirt Sports Cars says 5 witnesses says Dunbar wasn't involved. That's what we were talking about. The supposed 5 affidavits that have been signed by, according to his attorney. The scary part about this whole thing, and one of the other people in the chat brought this up, is that Baker actually told the other guy, Shy, to shoot one of the guests who I think had just walked into the house. He actually told him to shoot him, even though he didn't. He actually didn't do it, but Baker actually instructed him to fire his weapon at him, take him out. It's just scary. And good thing nobody did. I mean, I guess in the end, that's the one good thing, is nobody actually got hurt. No violence actually took place. But just in Florida, just the very act of felony of armed robbery already, I believe, has a minimum sentence of 10 years. So it's going to be extremely crucial for Dunbar if he wants to have any chance at a future here in the NFL. Having signed affidavits that say he had no weapon in his hand and they can prove that's going to be he's going to need all that, because if not, you're looking at 10 years at least minimum in the slammer.
Yeah, but even if he gets away from this whole thing, this whole being involved in such an event, it's going to haunt him forever. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. It's just it wasn't like, hey, I was at the card game with a bunch of people and other people were shooting. That's there. It's the people he came with, right?
Right.
And that's the whole thing that makes it so ugly. And maybe he thought his buddy was talking smack when his buddy was saying, we're going to do this. And we're like, you know how things go. A lot of people talk smack, and then when actually push comes to shove, it was just all smack. Right. Unfortunately, this wasn't smack. And it was scary, and people could have been killed, and people were robbed, and this is horrid, and people's lives are going to be altered one way or the other. And then take a look from the Giants' perspective. Here's some that you invest in that you're expecting them to be a star for years to come, and now look what you have after the draft, with a lot of things already happening here. This is not going to be good for them either. You know, that it takes them a step back, and which is, as Seahawks fans, we're okay with because they're in the NFC, but not this way. You know what I mean? We want to be a different way. We don't want to be this way. We want to be based on us being better, not people making those type of stupid decisions in life.
Right. Flight in June and Kenyor is a changed man. Thank you guys for your super chats. So the other thing to this is that, you know, there's the just criminal aspect of him trying to not, you know, end up in prison for a long period of time. But then, of course, there's a whole flip side of it. There's the organizations that are involved here, the Seahawks and the Giants, and then the NFL itself. You know, the commissioner might step in here, and you know how that goes. Sometimes, you know, guys get suspended and taken out without even a ruling done in the legal courts. You know, oftentimes as far as the NFL is concerned, sometimes you're guilty before proven innocent. We've seen that many times. So he's got a couple of uphill battles to climb that may or may not go his way. But at this point, he's got a lot of things to try to battle against to get on the right side. But what's your thought as far as do we see Quinton? Is there any chance we see Quinton Dunbar in a Seahawks uniform this year, Pat?
I think we will. We will. There's a couple things going for him besides his great athletic ability and his talent. He has a coach that here believes in second chances. If there's a coach that you're going to do a crap thing in front of, it's got to be Pete Carroll. He will give you an opportunity to prove yourself correct. There's so many he gives, and then if you don't make it, you're totally gone. If there's a coach that's going to do it, and if there's a team that can help nurture him and has enough veteran leadership out there and has been through the hoops with other players, it'll be the Seattle Seahawks. So I do think if he is innocent, he will see the field, assuming that the commissioner doesn't come in and say, hey, you were there by association, you have to be suspended for half a season or 6 games or 4 games or whatever the coin flips in his mind that is an appropriate punishment that is there. But it also means that he's going to be on a short leash. And whatever he does up here, he's going to have to be, very, very careful. He can't do simple, foolish things anymore. He's kind of made himself limited now for many, many years to come, what he can and cannot do socially. Or if not, he's going to go to prison quicker. And we don't want him to do that.
So you think?
I hope he's not guilty. Go ahead.
So you don't think he'll miss any games? You think he could actually be here game one, regular season, and maybe even before then in preparation for the season? You think he?
Well, I don't know when our game is actually going to be. That's why I can make that easy statement. But I do think if the facts get fast-tracked and there gets the alignment to it, I think I don't think if there's games he's going to miss, for sure he's going to miss preseason games. That to me sounds pretty clear. But actual regular season games, I don't know yet. I do not know yet. And I like to think that if let's say the 5 witnesses are correct, he didn't have a gun, he really didn't have anything to do with it, and he's just kind of there by association, and he turned himself in, everything's fine, they do the investigation, he's clear to go, then I think, no, he will not miss any games. If he did take money and has a partial association, he will miss some games. There's no way the commissioner's going to let him get away with that. There's just not. And, unless we do the, what's the linebacker we released this year? The one from Cal that we like very much. Kendricks. Unless he gets the Kendricks legal system,
I was just gonna.
We're going to play your theory.
I was just gonna say, that Michael Kendricks thing. That's been a couple years now. It seems like since his it had happened back when he was in Cleveland, and they kept putting that sentence back and back and back. Now, granted, I think a armed assault is going to be handled a little bit differently than a white collar crime that he committed. There's actual lives at stake, as opposed to the other one being not quite such a violent nature. But I hope you're right. I hope you're right that this gets proven correct, and that maybe all this delay is just because they just needed time for the lawyer to come in and get things sorted out. And there was a statement made by the attorney saying that he was not happy with the fact that the police department had put the information out so quickly. In fact, let's see, what does he say here? He says, Dunbar's defense lawyer, Michael Greco, said on Friday that the 5 witnesses attested that Dunbar was in no way involved. He said he presented the affidavits to the Broward State Attorney's Office, but prosecutors are still requiring Dunbar to turn himself to be jailed. All the affidavits indicate my client is innocent, Greco said. He lashed out at the Miramar police for tweeting about the arrest warrant and tagging Seattle's account. Quote, I've never in my career seen a police department so excited about arresting a celebrity, unquote, the lawyer said. So he seems pretty determined that, not only is he innocent, but that, the wrong information was put out there. And we know that happens a lot, that often the court of public opinion can determine somebody guilty before even half the story can get put out there. And so, it is unfortunate that TMZ and sites like that can put these things out so fast that the allegations speak louder than the actual truths. But if you were to believe what the lawyer is saying at this point, and of course it's coming from a lawyer who's going to say everything that's going to make your client as innocent as possible, I mean, that's pretty strong, saying that he had nothing to do. He has no way involved. I mean, that's a pretty bold statement. So I hope he's right.
Yeah.
For his sake, for Dunbar's sake, and for the sake of the football team moving forward.
Yeah, and also for the NFL moving forward. I mean, it's really bad enough to have one person. If it's 2, you know what I mean, or possibly 3, it gets worse and worse. And there's an image there with the fans too here, and it already went through pains the last few years on different social issues of whether to kneel or not, and what that actually means. And so, but here to actually have an actual crime with guns and potentially people being hurt and armed robbery, that just takes everything to a much worse level than it already is. And I thought we were moving beyond the other issues and getting back to football and wanting us to be involved with that, taking the politics out of it. And I think this just reeks ugly social issues that are not easy to solve one way or the other.
Yeah,
Did that make any sense?
Yeah. I think it's also easy. The story is hard to, when you only look at one sliver of it and you haven't seen the big picture, it's easy to come to rush to judgments about what somebody did or didn't do, or what bad decisions they're making in their lives to do certain things. But we don't know the whole story. And like you said, it's, I think about the Aaron Hernandez story, which we know a little bit more because there's been some more information, documentaries come out that has a lot more about what happened behind the scenes than when the story first broke. And you start to understand a little bit more what caused some of these things to happen. And it's not a black and white, simple issue. There's a lot of levels of what causes something like this that makes it a lot harder just to look at and say, these guys are successful football players. Why would they do something this stupid? It's sometimes harder to break these things down when you don't understand the cultural background, the family background, all the things that related to what eventually, I think, is the culmination of a lot of different things. But yeah, who you hang out with, I think that will always be a big part of things. When you talk about your friends and your kids and who you grew up with, so much of how you do, who you run with, has a big influence on decisions you make and situations you get into. Even if it's not something you would normally do on your own. Sometimes you're just, like you said, you get caught in the wrong place, wrong time, because you're with the wrong person, who happens to get caught in the wrong place, wrong time more often than not.
And a little shout out to your parents there, Norb, because I think the world of your family, and I know that your dad is very good on making sure that you think things through and just don't wildly get to do foolish and crazy things and hang out with crazy people. You know what I mean? I think the effort your parents put into that, and for us, we're very fortunate. We have great parents. That it prevented us from having the same potential challenges that other people have. So, there's a lot involved in it besides dollars and cents, family, background, who you hang with, the neighborhood you grew up in, your teachers, your friends, the whole community. It takes a village to make things good. Sometimes it takes a village to make things bad too. So, I mean, so a little kudos to your parents there, Marv.
Well, I appreciate that. I know you know my family very well. You know my dad, and my dad's obviously been very involved, big Seahawks fan as well. But both my parents, obviously, I consider myself very lucky that I had folks who, were always on us. Sometimes maybe at the time felt like they were too strict on things, always demanding high expectations, whether it came to school or what we were doing. But I think that's one of those things where at the time we don't necessarily appreciate it. It's even with my own kids. Sometimes they think me and my wife sometimes are hard on them, but I think that's the whole idea, is that it's our job as parents. You got to be hard on your kids, because if you don't, who's going to be? Who's going to set them straight when they're not doing the right thing? And so I know that I was afraid that if I messed up, my dad was going to lay into me. And, back then, I felt the back of the slipper every once in a while when I really messed up. And so, he kept me on the right track for sure. But a lot of it was the fact, I think, a little bit of luck, because friends I hung out with who became my lifelong friends, that are still friends with today, were also pretty good guys who we didn't get into a lot of trouble. If we had spare time, we were doing two things. We were either making movies or playing video games, or playing sports. I mean, those three things. And usually when you had something to keep you busy other than, wasting time or doing things that are going to get you in trouble, I mean, usually that's what happens when you have too much idle time on your hands. So fortunately, me and my friends kept ourselves busy doing more fun stuff like that. So, so yeah, it is important. Your parents, your friends, and then having people who care about you. You and I have been friends for a long time, since the college days, and we've been through a lot of stuff together, and a lot of good times, a lot of bad times, but it's been more good than not. And you're like the white brother I never had.
Yeah, the older brother you never wanted.
Or the other brother I never wanted. But But let's flip this a little bit. Let's say let's look at the half glass empty side. Let's say what you say doesn't come true, and we don't get Dunbar for this 2020 season or beyond. What's the impact on the Seahawks moving forward? I mean, I assume that means we're back to Trey Flowers at the starting right cornerback.
Yeah, and I think Trey Flowers sees an opportunity now, if that is true, that he realizes he's got to really step up his game. Because sometimes he played really well, and at times I thought he took things for granted, and it was more for show than for actual dough. And I think certain things that they've been wanting to teach him, he realizes he's on the short leash. Now he knows. You know what I mean? There's no hiding it. We were going to bring in another player that's going to be 10 times better than you, and if you're lucky, you'd have been our nickel slot or a backup. But now you either have to play better or you're done, because we'll bring somebody else in by the end of the year. You know, and that's, for some people, they perform better. And let's hope that lights the fire, gets him to use his hands more, gets him to do certain things that we want him to do, gets him to play better position, and not just do things for the show, but actually do things for the betterment of the game for the Seahawks that are there. So I think it's an opportunity, if Dunbar doesn't come here, for Trey Adams to actually up his game and work on the things that he's been asked to work on.
Do you think?
I think he has potential.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've had him for 2 years now. This is that crucial third year for him to, try to earn that contract extension and get the big money down the line. I don't know, from what you've seen, do you feel like he's got the potential to turn it around? Last year was a bit of a struggle, and it was hard to watch him, especially in the playoffs, getting burned badly in that final playoff game against the Packers. But I don't know, what's your feeling? Because I think we all collectively thought when Dunbar was signed, we liked the Dunbar signing, and we're ready to sort of see the demotion of Trey Flowers. But now, like you said, he's going to have to come back up, because obviously Seattle's plan A has, well, for right now, we'll see. It may be in jeopardy, but you think he can? Do you think he can do it? Do you think he can surprise us all?
Well, I don't think he'll be the all-pro that we wish he would be, but I think he can reduce his mistakes by at least 35%, and I think that might be one or two more victories for us out on the field. And I think that's what we can expect from him. That's kind of his upper limit right there. But I don't think I don't think he'll be as talented as Dunbar is. I really don't. Or our other corner that's there. I just can't get his name right now.
Shaquille Griffin. Shaq.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think he has the same talent as Griffith does, but I think he has certain things that he can really accentuate better. Kind of be like Richard Sherman. Learn to use all his strengths, because he knows he didn't have the speed, but he understood routes. He understood when to break on balls. He understood that he had to be physical in tackling. He did other things that made him a better corner all the time, where people were afraid to actually throw at him when they really could have. Yeah. And so, you kind of got to build what you want it to be, because since Griffith is so good, whoever's going to be the opposite corner is going to be picked on. That's why Dunbar was such a great signing. Who are you going to throw at now, right? You're going to throw over the middle to our safeties and our linebackers. Hopefully, our linebacker safeties will take your head off. That's what we were setting this up to be, and maybe get a little bit better coverage in the flat. I mean, that's what we why Dunbar was such a good signing, and that's where Trey fell short, and we need him to step it up. We need him to play better position. We need him to know where he's at. We need him to keep his eyes on the ball. We need him to keep his hands where he can actually make a difference and not get caught out of position where he is, and to be a little more physical, because he wasn't, and that's what drove us crazy.
Right. Yeah, because he's got the build. He definitely has a Sherman type of build. He's long, and we've seen him make some pretty good tackles, and it just seems like being a little more aggressive, not giving him free run. And
he's actually faster than Sherman too. That was the whole thing. He was actually faster than Sherman.
But he played so loose. He played so loose and gives so much cushion that it was so easy to throw underneath, and he would just have so much space between, that he was so many balls were thrown in front of him, and then, but yeah, he's got to use those, build up his technique a little bit, and keep guys in front of him and keep them from getting behind him too, because he got it both ways, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. He tried so hard to say, okay, I'm not going to get burned deep, that he stayed so far back that they just burned him up front. They said, okay, I'll play a little bit more up front, but then they're just like, okay, we're going to burn you deep, because he got flat-footed. He didn't stay on his toes. He didn't turn as the players went. I don't mind giving up a 7 or 8 yard if you prevent the bomb. But if you're trying to prevent the 7 yard and you do get beat with a bomb because you're just so overly aggressive, you haven't learned to play your position yet. And that was the whole thing. I think he just indecisively didn't know which way he was going to go. And it showed in the field in the most critical times. Mm-hmm. He was in that dead man's land, I'm either going to get burned up the back or burned. I'm going to be burned somewhere. I think I'll just stop kind of here in the middle, it always felt like. And I'm like, damn it. So you always heard me say, hit the player, push the body down, give yourself an advantage. Don't let the quarterback decide where to throw the ball.
Right.
Let you tell the quarterback where you want him to throw the ball.
Interrupt, break up that timing. Yeah, throw him off the route, break up the timing a little bit, that sort of thing. Kevin Yor in the super chat says, Trey Flowers is not it. He's garbage. So Kevin Yor does not feel too inspired that he's going to get it turned around. But obviously we've seen flashes. We've seen flashes where he has made some pretty good plays.
I'm being very clear. He's not going to be Griffith, and he's not going to be Richard Sherman, but he can be better than what he has been out there.
Right.
And I think he has that ability. And you have to remember, we're very fortunate to draft Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman ended up being a better player than we expected. You know what I mean? He was a 5th-round draft choice, and we had Boelter Thurman, who was our starting quarterback at that time. And if Boelter Thurman wouldn't have got hurt, who knows what would have happened to Richard Sherman?
Right.
That was kind of all the stars lined up, and then Richard Sherman was able to do what he was able to do and developed himself into one hell of a cornerback.
Yep.
It was taking advantage of the opportunity that was there. And Trey Adams didn't have to earn it, but kind of had it given to him. It always felt that way, or do you disagree with that point? He kind of was, okay, we draft him, we're going to make him. Who did he really beat out?
He didn't really have much competition, so he was sort of the guy there by default. So it does seem in some ways he didn't have to fight for the spot, And like I said, maybe he will be hungry now that, because essentially whatever happens from this point on, it was clear that the Seahawks didn't regard him as high as he probably sees himself, made that move to get Dunbar. And if Dunbar were to come in, I think it's pretty clear that he probably would have been the starting right corner regardless. But now with this happening, now he sees himself, okay, they don't value me as high as I need to be valued, so I better step it up now that I've dodged this bullet, essentially, of potentially being replaced. If Dunbar does come back, he's going to have to fight for that spot regardless and find a way to work his way into the secondary. So it is a good wake-up call for him. He got that wake-up call the moment that trade happened a few months ago. So I think he knows.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, if he were to become the nickel corner, right, or to take the slot receiver out, just getting him more physical at the line will help tremendously if you're going to have to cover the slot receiver, because that's what you're going to have to do.
Yeah.
Those are tricky little slick guys, tall guys. Everybody's tall compared to me. But, people they're crafty. And so him pushing people off routes and learning how to do that effectively, and not always pushing the same person the same exact way, but changing how you push receivers at certain places, that's what he's got to learn. It's just not a push, it's how you push and how you keep altering that up so the receiver doesn't always get to figure it out, but you force the receiver to keep adjusting, not you adjust to the receiver. He's got to learn to be the aggressor on that play.
Yeah, because you got to do it right. Because if you press coverage and you miss, that could be really bad. If you lunge at a guy and he breaks through and gets one step on you and goes. So there's definitely, you can't just be aggressive and for being aggressive's sake. Because if you mess that up, you can really get burned. And I feel like that was like you said, always the case. He didn't want to get burned. He was always kind of playing it, what felt like playing it safe. Ryan Happy says, love you, Norb, but Flowers is trash. He's got to go. There's another one. Then Devin Peterson.
I got to go?
we're not as intimidating as we used to be, according to Devin in the super chat. So, anyway, a lot of people I feel still not having faith. I think are worried that with Dunbar gone, they're concerned that our secondary is just going to be picked on. But what do you do?
Well,
right?
I'll actually ask in a different way. If we get more pressure on the quarterback, will our secondary be picked on?
What was that?
We get more pressure on the quarterback, will our secondary be picked on as much as it is?
Well, yeah, of course. No, we all know that there's a relationship between pressure, off defensive line pressure, and pressure on the cornerback, on the secondary. The greater the defensive pressure, the less the pressure is on your secondary. So, yeah, I think it's definitely something where we need to. I think that's why we've been talking so much about needing to get better pass rush, because we can't expect our secondary to keep chasing guys down if they have all day to stand back there and survey the field and throw the ball, which sometimes it felt like that an eternity back there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I almost felt like it was Russell Wilson getting an extra 5 seconds. You know what I mean? How long we gave some of the quarterbacks to throw back there. At times I even thought I could make that throw, and that's pretty sad because we had no pressure. I mean, we could have baked a cake, you know what I mean, from scratch. Not even instant mix. It seemed like it took that long, and there was the frustration. It needs to be a combination of a few things, but Dunbar was key because Dunbar would take that first 3 seconds away, no matter what. You know what I mean? You're not going to get anything on a short slant. You're not going to get anything on a quick out. I'm going to take it away.
Yep.
You may earn something further down the field if you're able to have your receiver work very, very hard. But no, you're not going to get it. I'm going to take that away from you. And if you get any defensive pressure, all of a sudden now the timing goes away. And it'd be on both sides of the side. It doesn't mean that our middle wasn't still open, but it basically forced people to play in a different zone. And then you let your other players pinch a little bit more. And those are key. So you're right. Every position counts, but they still may get picked on. But if we get better pressure on the quarterback faster, we may be better off when it's all said and done. And if that's going to be through scheme, or is that going to be through better players or better effort? That's, I think, be a combination of all three. I think we need to do better disguising of when to blitz and how to blitz and what players to blitz. I'd actually like to move Marquise Blair up at linebacker at times.
Marquise
and
Blair,
take over the. Yep, because I think he hits like a tank.
Yeah.
Even though he's 5'11", and he can still cover. He could be a hybrid linebacker, defensive back player. They can cover both, and not just pigeon him to one spot or not. And I think those are little things where we can be innovative and take some of those short passes away because he's fast. He covered pretty decent. He can hit like a truck.
Yeah.
And maybe he replaces Kendrick. I don't know, but at least in the nickel package he could.
Right.
And because if they do run, he has the strength to tackle. He's not going to be run over. He'll hit you. He'll hit you hard.
Yeah. Well, if we could have a few of our second-year guys step up, Collier, Marquise Blair, those types, that would be huge because they didn't quite contribute as much as we hoped last year.
Yeah, who's that first player you mentioned again? What was his name? Was he even on the team?
LJ Collier. Yeah, he was our first pick last year.
When did we draft him again?
He was our first pick.
Again?
What
was
he?
That's my point.
Yeah, he needs to step up.
No, he was.
Yeah,
he needs to step up big time. Do I think he was a first-round draft choice? No, but it doesn't matter. They thought highly of him, and any player that they draft mostly produces something in their first year. He didn't produce very much.
No, he wasn't on the field at the end there.
Yeah, and even towards the end of the year when we really needed him because he had fresh legs, he should have been able to make a difference. He really wasn't, and that was kind of frustrating. Everybody else was hanging on fumes. Here's a guy who's going to play most of the season, and he's not playing with fresh legs. He's acting like he's been like every other team, playing all this year, and his body's beaten down. He should have been a monster at the end of the year last year. He really should have been.
Yep.
So a little disappointed. So hopefully he's working hard on the lessons that he learned.
Yep, for sure. So
And
Nick
actually want them all our
LeBeau,
players.
Nick LeBeau in the super chat, kind of repeating what we said in the beginning. Quinton Dunbar's attorney says he has 5 sworn statements from witnesses who say that he wasn't involved. Please say the warrant still stands. So yeah, we covered that in the very beginning, but you know, it's again more depth to this story than I think we really know, and we will be monitoring this close as you know. I'm sure this is going to be an ever-changing situation day by day. With this very
It's encouraging,
bizarre
though. It's
situation. It's encouraging. It's going the right direction, for sure.
Yeah, well, it'd even be more encouraging if they say, listen, all 3 people aren't the 3 players that we thought that they were. They're actually 3 different strangers. You know what I mean? That would be the most encouraging, you know what I mean? They're all wrong.
Well,
That would be the ideal thing of mistaken.
And it does, you know, at that part where he had that press conference right after the event happened and was going about that looking like it was just any other day, you know, just hanging out, having his online press conference. And if you were to watch that, you would have no idea. And maybe he's just really good at poker, but he certainly was, you know, didn't seem to have anything, stressful on his mind at that point, knowing that this is right on the heels of that event that had happened. So, yeah, some things just don't add up, but hopefully they will add up in the end, and it'll add up in a good way where the truth will come out, and you know, he'll come out of this, you know, on the right side of the law. So we'll find out. But yeah, it's been a pretty bizarre last couple of days.
Yeah, and I can just imagine, you know, the whole thing here. It's just none of this sounds good. You know, and clearly, well, they already opened up social distancing in Florida, so that's not surprising. But you know, it's just the whole thing of the risk of everything that's out here that people would be actually doing things like that at this time here. Maybe I'm a little more cautious, a little more long-term thinking here. But yeah, this is scary stuff. But in terms of back to the Seahawks, if it does move forward, do we look for another free agent cornerback? Do we develop our own cornerback? We've kind of talked about developing our own a little bit here, but are there any more free agent cornerbacks that are out there, you know, that still may be available that can fill the gap?
There are some names out there, potentially. I think Aqib Talib, if I'm not mistaken, might still be floating around out there. I don't have a full list of those available, but it certainly would require a pretty quick shift of their strategy, because I think if they'd known this was going to happen before the draft, they might have made a couple of different moves if they knew they were going to need a corner without Dunbar there. But yeah, that could be an option. But
well, they did sign a couple corners that were undrafted, and I know that they were high on Corey Miller, the safety out of Baylor. I think he was able to play both positions. So, you know, he was at one point, I think he was considered a 5th-round draft choice. So it's not like they don't have talent that they're not bringing in new this year. But
right,
again, I'd hate to put a rookie out there on such a spot that you know it's going to be picked on.
Right.
And you know our cornerback's going to be picked on, because I think, you know, because even if we get Clowney, can we talk defensive line for a second? Because I think they're in combination. I really do think they are. You need one and the other. I tried to make that point earlier.
Right. Let me address something in the super chat. So Anthony Bain in the super chat says, cutting Dunbar gives Seattle $19 million in cap space, no dead money. Sign Griffin. Sign Griffin. Dunbar is overrated. So
we extend Griffin, in other words. Extend Griffin, okay.
I think that's what they're talking
because
about.
Because he's going to be a free agent next year.
Griffin Ryan. Unless they're talking about... anyway. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess there would be that... If things don't go well for Dunbar, then Seattle and were to decide to end things there, well, then the contract situation goes away, and I guess they do have some more financial flexibility, which would give them some options to do something else. But you're going to say something. You're sort of bringing up Clowney, Pat.
Was I going to say something?
Yeah. You said you wanted to talk about defensive line, I think, or was it the offensive side?
On the defensive line. So what can we do on the defensive line that we have there? did we adequately address this through the draft and our free agents so far? I mean, if
Defensive
we don't sign
line.
Clowney,
Yeah.
remember, we have Urban, right?
Yep.
We have Collier. We have Green. We got Pui Ford. We lost Jefferson, and we lost who's the other one we lost?
I know you're talking about.
Kind of like the.
Shoot, I forgot the name. Maybe the people will remember out there. By the way, I think Noah Roberts in the chat was saying, I think they meant Everson Griffin. If we don't get Dunbar, then we sign Everson Griffin, who's been floating out there.
That'll take Clowney out of the picture, or Clowney's going to have to take a lot less money. And I think that's not a bad option. I think that's okay. That's good.
I mean, I think we've been talking about that as a possible option even without the Dunbar thing, but that's if, we don't get Clowney. That's a possible situation. But, yeah, I see people talking about, Eli Apple was another possible corner floating out there. Deshaun Shedd with a third go-around. Al Woods, Nick LeBeau, thank you. Al Woods, that was the other one that we lost on the D-line. But yes, no, we did not address the defensive line in the draft for sure. We went heavy on offensive line during free agency, but not a whole lot D line. But we did, like you said, Bruce Irvin. We also got Benson Mayowa. Who else did they bring in? I mean, those are a couple of the names that they brought in, but these aren't your top tier, big name, the guys. But it's good for depth for sure.
Well, and that's the key thing. We just don't know what they're going to be until they actually get here. Pua Ford, who would have thought he'd have been pleasant surprised he was. I mean, he was, I think, Big 12 Player of the Year, or the league that he played in. But he's a little bit small, but he still was quick, and no one drafted him. Here he is, an unrestricted free agent, a non-drafted free agent rookie, and he comes in and he makes an impact. And is he a four-quarter guy? No, but he is a good first down and possibly third down defensive tackle. They can just give you a huge burst off the line and make a difference on those plays. You know what I mean? But he's not. I'm going to hold this middle nose or the tackle for 4 quarters. No one's going to move me. It's not. That's not what he's there for. Yeah. And I like what he brings to the table because he hits good and he tackles. He actually makes tackles. When he hits people, they go down. I like that. And so,
right.
No, it's. So I mean, I don't feel like we're having more answers because when we signed Dunbar, he kind of was the answer for a lot of things there, and he kind of was the plug that addressed a lot of issues, at least for that part of the field. And now I feel like we've taken not 1 step back, but 2 steps back, and that's what scares me because I was hoping that one of the free agents that we signed, or we signed somebody else off waivers, a defensive tackle that maybe a little bit old in the tooth, but still can give us a good season like we've done previously with other players. I was hoping that that's what we do.
Right.
But that's too early now. And 2, now we're looking for 2, possibly a defensive back and a defensive lineman, and that may be a little bit too big to chew. Does that mean we won't be competitive? No, I still think we'll be competitive. But it goes from I think we're going to make the semifinals, finals, possibly Super Bowl, to just being are we going to make the playoffs or not, in my mind.
Right. Or
that's how important these players are.
Or that always tough, we seem to always hit that divisional wall every year when it comes to playoffs. We're very familiar with making it to the divisional round and hitting the wall there. So we need the pass rush for sure. Dunbar it felt like, okay, there's a position we don't have to worry about. It's covered. We're good there. And I think we felt pretty good about our safety spot. I think we felt pretty good about everybody staying healthy. I think we liked the 4 positions there at both corners and safeties. But now all of a sudden it's like, deja vu, back to where we were last year. unless Flowers can prove otherwise. But
not only that, but we may have lost our best potential defensive lineman because Connie again needs to stay healthy. He needs to stay healthy, and that's kind of half the ball game. But all our players, if they stay healthy, we're pretty impressive. If we get people injured, we kind of fall down quickly. And unlike our Legion of Boom days, if somebody fell down, the next person was actually pretty darn good. And
we had so much depth. We had so much depth that we had like enough for 2 full defensive lines, and we had cornerback. The secondary was second to none, and so that's part of the financial reality of when you got so much invested in one guy, you can't afford to have 2 lines worth of depth. That's just part of how it goes. But Russell Wilson, there's no denying that without him, most of the time, these situations that we find ourselves in making the playoffs every year would not be happening. And it's interesting. I think there was a story out there that Pro Football Focus ranked Wilson number 33 as quarterback, which is very surprising.
Of all time, or just
I think currently. But he doesn't get any respect. He doesn't get any respect in terms of, he was at number 33 on the PFF's all-decade team. So
okay, I think it's a little low, but I'm willing to accept that. Then if he currently is the third best quarterback,
I guess all-decade team when you look at the entire thing, but that's still pretty low. But
and that's the whole thing. I think I think Russell Wilson is really fantastic, but the pressure is going to be on him now with a new offensive line. Essentially, his job is to get first down, and that's kind of the other part of the secret too. The longer we keep our offense on the field and our defense rested, then we don't have to have so much pressure on the players that are there. And so Russell Wilson can make long drives, whether we get 3 points, 6 points, whatever. Right? We got to control the clock a little bit more. But the problem is, what makes Russell Wilson so special is he's a guy that I know can throw 45 yards on a dime and hit the receiver in stride. And that's
right.
He has one of the most beautiful long balls in any quarterback I've seen out there. And he can do it while he's running, too, and he throws it. And that's what makes it so darn good. You know what I mean? That's why he's so fantastic.
Well, it was interesting because I brought up in the last live video talking about the rumor that the Seahawks were talking to the Browns in 2018 about possibly trading Wilson for the number 1 draft pick, and it was a lot of rumor. The internet all blew up about it yesterday, and it may or may not have been a conversation they had, but at that time, of course, you're checking every possible option. But it raised a lot of questions that people had, like, well, if you had that opportunity again, would you have taken it? And I think there's interesting how a lot of people still feel like that they would rather have not signed Russell Wilson to a big contract and started new with another quarterback at a cheap scale. But I think making it sound as if, well, Russell Wilson, during those 2 years we went to the Super Bowl, really it was all of the defense, and Russell Wilson, all he had to do was hand the ball because we had a great running game, we had a great defense. I think people forget some of the great throws and plays, not just running the ball, but throwing the ball that he did during that Super Bowl time. He wasn't just a handoff quarterback. He made some amazing throws in not just 2013 and 14 when we went into the Super Bowls, but even in 2012. People, I think, forget how great his arm really was, and that's not a player very easily replaced. But I think he often doesn't get enough credit for those first 2-3 seasons when he was playing for cheap and where the defense was kind of the headline. What do you think about that? You and I were both in the stands. We saw it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think people don't realize it's the throws he didn't throw that kept us in games too. In other words, receivers doing a quick hitch out there, and the cornerback's already on it. And if he doesn't throw it perfect, or if it's a little bit off, the cornerback runs it back for a touchdown. And he saw that, and he refused to make the throw because he saw that had a better chance of failure than it did success. Having the ability of having that intuition over those years and over all these years. How many touchdowns has he thrown again versus how many interceptions? There's a reason that number is good.
Yeah. I don't have the number in front of me, but it's really good. It's one of the best in the business.
It's really, really good. And that just means, that doesn't mean he sits on the ball. He's moving. He's moving all the time. Sometimes he's moving the wrong direction. And it makes us all get, heart attacks in the stands. But there's a reason, and he's trying to do things. But there's a reason he's... Game management's not just handing the ball off, as you say. It's also making the right throws at the right time and knowing when to throw and when to take the sack and when to do things like that there. And he's got a very good feel for that perspective. And I don't think as fans we always appreciate, as soon as we get frustrated, it was 3rd and 3, why didn't we make it? And we didn't get the yards or the ball didn't get caught, but he threw it where it could not have been intercepted. He threw where only his receiver had a chance, and if his receiver didn't get it, it was going to be incomplete. And therefore we kept, the score where it was, and even though we had to punt the ball, we didn't give an interception up or a touchdown up. Yeah. And just those type of split decisions. And like I said, you and I had a different perspective. We actually got to sit closer to the field at one time. Because where we sit up, where we have great views, but we don't always feel the speed of the game. Yeah. And we sat closer down to the field at one time. Remember how fast the game was? Oh my gosh, was that fast.
Oh, especially then if you ever sit close and sit at the end zone position and try to see what the quarterback sees, it's like chaos. You got all this stuff in front of you, all this things moving, and it's so easy from above where it's high and safe and you're just watching the bird's eye view. But life is not the bird's eye view when you're on the field. It's crazy chaos. And and I think on top of what you said, probably his best skill is being able to stay alive from one play to the next. He's never missed a game, barely missed a snap, and not too many players can say that, especially a guy who runs as much as he does, and he's smart about not putting himself in harm's way so that he lives to play the next down, and that probably is his most valuable thing of all, because you can be the most talented guy in the world, but if you're sitting there nursing a hamstring or a torn ACL, you're not doing anybody any good for a long period of time, a.k.a. Carson Wentz type, Quick shout out to the super chat. Nick LeBeau comes back in and says, if we cut Dunbar, we get $3 million, putting our cap hit at 19, but we need to spend around 7 on the rookies, putting our cap at around 13 million. So Nick spent a lot of time figuring out the cap thing, and I think he's seeing the financial benefits if we if we don't have Dunbar. But
let Dunbar go. Yeah, and I think that's good. We got to know that, and I think thank you for doing that, and because it's not simple to do, figure that out, and yeah, you always, and this is part of the planning. What your options are going to be. Hopefully, I'm sure the Seahawks are. Are we going to be able to sign? If not, how many games? What's our game plan going to be? How much cap do we want? How much can we put in the invest in the defensive line? And you always got to leave a little bit aside, because what happens every year, somebody gets hurt. And you got to make sure you have something left in the kitty for that, too. You don't want to be tapped out and then can't sign anybody except for a league minimum.
Well, Anthony Bain jumped in on the super chat also. He says, cut Dunbar, get Everson, Logan Ryan, and Marcel Darius or Snacks Harrison to replace him with that $19 million. Patriots have been an elite organization because they don't tolerate stories like this. Well, Dukes of Hazzard. Dukes of Hazzard comes in. Pat, this is good for you. He said, Dukes of Hazzard says, Pat's a beyond great addition to your live chats. Thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. Hit that like button, guys. Going to have to watch some Hawks highlights after this. Merch also. Thank you for the shout out. And Pat, so you always got Dukes of Hazzard has always been behind, always got your back here in the videos. So thank you. Dukes of Hazzard, I agree.
Dukes of Hazzard. And remember, I'm taller, thinner, and better looking than the guy you see on the screen, just letting you know that.
Yeah, but you're on the screen, so who are you talking about exactly? Pat, you're right there. See, there he is. Oh, man. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. This has been probably the most bizarre offseason in a long time. First of all, stuff going on with these players and rumors happening. Then, of course, with the season itself, just wondering whether there's going to be a season, whether it's going to be on time or delayed, a partial season. Are we going to have partial crowds? Are we going to have empty stadiums? And then, I don't know, did you hear that, Pat, where the NFL was talking about possibly piping in fake crowd noise if we don't in fact have any crowds in the stands. I think that's a stupid idea. I'd rather it just be quiet and just be real than start piping in fake crowd noise like a bad sitcom or something. And because once you start going down that road,
I would actually love to have the microphones closer to the field, so when we hear the hits, we really hear the hits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When we hear the hits on the players and the parts that's there. But hey, we could ask New England for crowd noise because we're suspect they may have done that once or twice before. But
I think the Redskins. I think the Redskins were accused of doing that during the wild card game where we beat them. I think somebody thought that they made the claim that the Redskins have been piping in fake crowd noise, and we've been accused of piping in fake crowd noise forever. But we don't need no fake crowd noise.
Just let's ask Peyton Manning that question again when you went to the Super Bowl and he right away said at first I couldn't hear even though we have the ball I can't hear the snap and everything that's there because it was so loud of the Seahawks fans.
And it was a neutral field.
To the fans when you're neutral field, and that's what makes us so special. So shout out to all the 12s and what they do and what they bring, and we travel well.
Yep.
And so, but in terms of I prefer not to have an empty field. I prefer that we kind of do every other seat. You know what I mean? If anything. And but you know how that goes. They kind of want you to keep your distance, or maybe every third seat because you can bring some revenue in, and it's better for the TV. But if we have to play empty in front of an empty, we do. And if we have to stay, and maybe for those that are season ticket holders, based on what they have there, they get another special bonus to their package. You know what I mean? Maybe they get some more extra merchandise or things like that there for being dedicated fans all these years and paying for those seats.
I was wondering if they did do that. If they actually did have only partial where certain people got to sit and some people didn't get to be in the games, how would they figure that out? How would it be like a drawing, some kind of just luck of every the odd seats or something like that? That would be very well. You and I are side by side, so how's that going to go? How would they split that up?
They would tell me I need to lose some weight again, and they'd be correct. But I mean, the reality is, how do you make that work? I mean, look what they do for the Sounder games. In reality, you could just sell out the bottom half and say, hey, for every these seats here that are the evens, in this game you're going to sit in the upper bowl. On these seats that are here, and the low ones are going to sit there.
That works for them because they have a whole section of people not sitting there. But for Seahawks have had sellout crowds for how many decades now? I mean, it's been sellout after sellout. So someone would have to miss out. But I hope it doesn't come to that. I'd almost rather it just be empty than every other, because then if I didn't get to go and somebody else did, I'd be more upset than if just nobody went. I'd be mad being not being chosen to go. Well, and that's just there's other ways that, unless they, in the future they're going to make everything box, because maybe they have a special raffle, and you know how many people can fit in those. If you go to the club, one of those special private booths that they have there. Suites,
maybe a few people can go into that stuff, but the reality is, no, the fan is part of the experience of the game. That's what made Seattle so special. At first, it wasn't the product on the field; it was the fans that made the product on the field better, because the other teams couldn't focus, and then the players and the fans kind of connected and bonded, and that's what makes Seattle so great, and that's why Seattle travels so well. I love watching games on TV when we go to another town and we see 15, 25, 30,000 Seahawks fans there, and they make enough noise that when the other team has the ball in their home field, we can hear them on TV.
Yep,
cheering.
The Seahawks chant.
And that just makes me proud all the time.
Yep. Yeah, I want to thank Nick LeBeau. Nick LeBeau had another super chat in there, talking more about the cap and everything. So go check that out. But Nick LeBeau, thank you so much for being so involved. This chat's been a little bit. It's a little bit heated. A lot of politics, I guess, being thrown around in there, and I hopefully we can keep this more of a discussion of just football and human interest, but I know once you start getting into other things, it's hard for politics not to creep its way into it. Just keep it clean, y'all.
So I apologize for the politics.
You started
I'll take that responsibility because that's kind of that's where I go. I apologize for that, but I'll keep it into the football realm. All right. So,
well, we're good. We're good.
But yeah.
I do want to say that Seahawks Martin in the chat was asking me. He said, "Did I see you on?" People are saying they saw you on the news yesterday, and yes, I was. I was in the news yesterday. It was a very exciting day, actually. It was a totally different topic, but some of you may have seen the video where I've been posting the progress of the Edwards family, who we've been raising money for. He actually was released from the hospital yesterday for the first time and got reunited with his wife. And they were victims of the COVID virus, and they've been separated for 26 days. And he was on unconscious on a respirator in the ICU, nearly didn't make it, and had a miraculous turnaround. And yesterday he walked out of the hospital and got reunited with his wife. And so I got to be there along with several Seahawks fans and some of the local media. And so while they were there, Chris Cashman of King 5, the NBC affiliate here in Seattle, did a little interview with me and got a chance to be on camera to talk about it. So it was a special day to see some good things, some good news happening out there in the world. So that was a very happy moment.
How much money did you guys raise for that, Norb? How much did Fans for Good raise for him?
Fans for Good, we've raised to date, I think roughly around $22,000, and so we set a goal, a very ambitious goal, which I didn't know if we'd even get close to, and that's amazing that this many people help get behind the cause. But we're hoping to hit that 25,000 mark that we set as a goal about a month and a half ago, and a lot of Seahawks fans and from locally and around the country had contributed to. They'd seen their story. It got a lot of press, and even NBC Nightly News did a story about them, and a lot of people rose to the occasion to support him, and he's a survivor, so hopefully he can continue to rehab and get back on his feet. But it was a pretty cool day yesterday, and for me it was a good chance to finally get out and be around some other Seahawks fans and people outside of the ones in my own house, since I haven't gotten out that much. We were all wearing masks and gloves and doing all the right things, but it was a reminder, even as Brian said as he was being interviewed before I went to his car, just telling everybody, wear your masks, keep your watching that social distancing thing, because this is a real thing. And it while some people still believe that this is not real, this is a real story that I got to witness and see firsthand how it can happen, nearly tragically to anybody. So, yeah, it's
and if I can also bring it,
go ahead.
Say if I can bring another point into it, $25,000 is beyond special and gracious. But having before been out for an extended period of time with my own health issues, that money's going to go quick for other things you have to pay for. So, thank you all for the fans for doing that, and who knows if he's going to be able to go to work and the full things are there when it's all said and done, and the wife and how things are going right now. So at this time, for people to be that gracious, thank you to everybody that was there, just because I have an idea what the bills may be like. So well, job.
And it's thank you.
Your high five.
And that is it. It's the medical things is just one thing. 26 days. That's a long time to be in the hospital ICU. And then there's the recovery. He's lost a ton of weight. He's dealing with not just physical side effects, but also there was some I think mental ones as well. That it's going to take some time to get back to normal. Even though he's back out of the hospital, that it's got a long way to go for the recovery. So this is really just the start of the next chapter. But this little bit that we were able to raise will hopefully help them get back on that track. And that's the power of the 12s for sure. That everybody rally around to do that. So that's what we're trying to do. Is to continue to bring awareness to different people in need and where we can help out, we try to do that. And so, unfortunately for us this year, we didn't get to do our Hawk Fest, which was our big fundraising event that we do every year in early June or late May. I had to cancel that because of the situation. So, unfortunately, we lost a funding source there. But, we'll just keep on doing what we can, and it'll eventually get more back to normal, and we'll all try to get back on the track eventually. But thank you for all you guys out there who supported and contributed to it. It's much appreciated. Well, Pat, I think we're about time to wrap things up here. But Pat, it was good to connect with you. I do hope we have games in our future coming up.
Yeah, you know how much I love doing this, Norm.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, you're so good at it, as attested by many in the comments.
But I do want you to know that if we have to go as fans in more protective gear, some of us are going to make that investment. If we have to get some more, a Tyvek suit and a Seahawk mask and whatever, we may have to play that game and then, make sure we take it off in an area that's safe and have other things are there so we're not transmitting any diseases from people that are there. We need to do that. Let's just wait and see what happens. But as a diehard fan, you know me, I'll go through hell and high water to cheer my beloved Seahawks on.
Well, you can also
I sit by the world's greatest person.
You can actually make a pretty cool, I think as a fan, you get all that stuff, gear that you have to possibly wear. You can really make a cool Seahawks outfit out of it, with a mask and attire. I mean, you can go all out, get the blue and green in some creative ways. So I think that would be, it'd be pretty cool, intimidating looking in the stands if everybody's wearing these cool blue and green masks, and you can go to town with some creative stuff. So Dukes of Hazzard in the super chat says, no fans, how much would that affect the record, you think? Well, it certainly would take away one of our advantages of being in our place, since the crowd noise is a big part of what we do. To have no Yeah, Dukes of Hazzard, one of your fans, Pat, I was bringing up, if we didn't have any fans in the stands, how would that negatively affect our record, being that it would take away one of our strengths as a home field advantage? I do believe that would be a huge one.
That would be very, very huge, and I would say 1 to 2 games at least, for sure. 1 to 2 games, because I think the fans easily make the difference in every game. I think they do, but for 1 to 2 games, I think we just really, in the fourth quarter, unnerve the other team's quarterback and their whole team, because they know they're playing in front of a crowd that's going to get louder and louder and louder and louder, and be really, that intensity without being mean, but just being loud. I think it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's a great question. Thank you, Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I borrow your brain for a little bit?
Well, we'll find out, but we'll stick with this day by day, week by week, and keep y'all informed on how things go. And Pat, we'll have to do this again if you are open to it. Can I count on you to tap in for some future commentary about the state of the Seahawks?
I could be bribed. Just make it a nice, chocolate cake, and I'm there. It doesn't take more than that. So, but yeah, I'd be happy to contribute any way that I can. Because
all right.
Greatest fans in the world are here in Seattle. We'll really rock.
All right. Well, Pat,
and
thanks for.
I one of the best.
Yeah. Hey, we've been doing it for a long time, man. 20-something years. 20-something years we've been doing this.
Yeah, but I'm not that old yet. So quit doing that.
All right, Pat. Well, thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me on the show, and to everybody who've been watching. Thank you for those of you who contributed to the super chat. I appreciate you guys' support, and everybody else who was getting the comments going. And just for you guys who have been watching this video, we will let you know what happens next in the Dunbar saga. Hopefully, there'll be a happier ending than what it seemed like yesterday. Devin Peterson, last super chat, says we might go 0-8 if we don't have fans. Well, boy, that's very half glass empty. But I think I'm more with Pat that maybe it's a 1 or 2 game swing. But in a division that's going to be as tight as it is, we need every single one, because I do believe it's going to be tight between the 49ers, Seahawks, and the Cardinals. Rams, we'll see. But the Rams always give us fits, so it's going to be tough. Every game is going to be tooth and nail. But again, thank you guys for watching. If you could, I'd love if you guys could like this video, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and that way you'll get notified every time a new video comes out, because there's so much going on. You don't want to miss it. All right, take care, you guys. Appreciate it. Pat, take care. And to the rest of you,
all right, go home.
Go Hawks, baby.